Fall in love with 252 exclusive offers on the Citroën range at Hugo Luna Motors today. Explore our impressive collection of Citroën cars and vans, where advanced comfort, style, safety and reliability all come together. Order your 252 today and take advantage of low-rate finance, a €500 deposit contribution and avail of a free home charger. Book your test drive today at hugolunamotors.ie. Citroën. For everyone, like no one.
Citroën. Country Life on Midlands 103. Brought to you by W. Orshaw, Burlington Business Park, Tullamore. Supplier of New Holland's tractors in the Midlands. worshaw.ie.
Now, good evening and welcome to Country Life here in Midlands 103. It's MJ Clery with you until 8 p.m. this evening, bringing the latest from the Midlands and further afield from the worlds of agriculture, food and agri-business. Thank you all for joining me this evening. And rain and more rain is what I have heard over the course of the last number of days. Farmers fighting a losing battle, it seems, with the weather at the moment, and most sheds will be full in the coming days. It's just this mildness, this unseasonable mildness. Well, now, I say unseasonable, but if we go back on our records, November and December are proving to be milder months than the early months of the new year over the past few years, and that's what we're seeing again. But pneumonia is something we have to be all conscious of now in the next couple of weeks, housing weanlings and yearlings with those type of temperatures. We're looking up to 17 degrees tomorrow on the first week of November. So just to be conscious on that and to keeping a close eye on stock over these few weeks with this mild weather. Now, the programme this evening, and in a moment, Mike Brady from the Brady Group chats to us about milk prices and also a very interesting article in yesterday's Farming Independent. Going to talk to him in just a moment, so stay tuned for that. Teagasc have an event in Tullamore next week. It's on farming for a better climate. Some really interesting areas are going to be covered on the day. Carbon farming, i.e. getting paid for sequestering carbon on your farm, and also how more Irish grain could be used in our rations, which would help to lower our carbon footprint. Seems a no-brainer, doesn't it? Especially where the tillage industry is at the moment. With only 18% of quad bike users wearing a helmet while operating a quad, Agri-Aware are calling for farmers to be more safety conscious. Marcus O'Halloran is a dairy farmer from South Tip. He's with Agri-Aware. He's going to join me to chat about the results of that survey a little bit later. Also, the ICSA are hitting the streets of Dublin. It is tomorrow week to protest about Mercosur, and they want you to join. Sean McNamara, their president, will join me later to give details of the day. Also, bird flu is unfortunately the topic of conversation at the moment, and Nigel Sweetnam from the IFA will chat to us about the virus and what the Department of Agriculture are doing to ensure it doesn't spread. As always, text me or WhatsApp me 083 30 10 103. Kicking off this evening with Mike Brady from the Brady Group. Mike, it's been a while since I was talking to you. Many thanks for joining me here in the programme.
Hey MJ, great to be back again. Good to have a chat.
Very good, Mike. We have a few things to speak about this evening, milk price being one of them, markets in general. But I'm going to start with your article in yesterday's Farming Indo. I'm looking at the heading of it here, and the heading is, "There's nothing wrong with wanting more. Big ambition lifts all of us up, so stop the begrudgery." And when I read through this article, we're going to talk about it in a moment, it reminded me of one of my favourite films, and that is Wall Street with Michael Douglas. It's from the 1980s, and there's an infamous line in the movie where Gordon Gekko says, "Greed is good." I'm going to put that to you now, Mike. Is greed good?
Oh, that's a very tough question to ask me, MJ, starting off tonight. But yeah, look, I suppose, greed is one of the 7 deadly sins. It's always associated with a negative connotation. But I think greed is confused with ambition in the farming community. Like, ambition is a farmer who wants to grow his business from 50 cows to 100 cows, like a lot of dairy farmers have done in the past 15 years. That's not greed. That's just ambition and driving on. I think greed is where taking a personal satisfaction and squashing your neighbour or something like that. And most guys are not like that. There's an element of that. There's no doubt about that. But look, in my opinion, if we didn't have ambitious people in this country, we wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, well, in your article here, you're mentioning certain farmers saying that people do not know when they have enough, and you're calling it as bullshit in your article. And definitively, though, Mike, there's a real element and level of truth in what you're saying. Now, it depends on your mindset. I'd be more on your wave of thinking. You made a very good point here in the article as well, as when an artist, say for example Taylor Swift, is selling out 6, 7, 8 nights in be it Wembley or Croke Park, whatever the case may be, nobody is saying, oh, she's so greedy. People are saying, look at this artist performing to people many nights in a row, isn't it fantastic? Whereas if a dairy farmer, for example, scales up and starts taking more land in his or her area, more cows, then this word is put in, do they not know when they have enough? There's no real correlation between the two, and I think there should be.
No, and like enough, like coming back to dairy cows again, like me and my advisor with my advisory hat on, you know, my job as an advisor, I find, in advising a dairy farmer is to find what I call his sweet spot number of cows. I know, like in the past, fellas had a milk quota that limited them. Now it's the grazing block is your new limit, we'll say. But like the limit may not be the right amount of cows for that farmer. There's a sweet spot number where he's comfortable farming. Some guys haven't reached that level. That can be very high for some guys. You know, it's 50 cows for some guys. It's 100 cows for other guys. It could be 1,000 cows for some lads. And I personally don't see a problem with that. You know, they generate employment. They create work for services industries and feed companies, etc. And look, we live in a capitalist society. Capitalism has trumped socialism all over the world and communism over the past 50 years. And that's the society we live in, be it right or be it wrong, you know.
And that capitalist society we're living in now, Mike, we're looking at milk prices at the moment. Obviously, we're on a global scale, and things that happen in different parts of the world have knock-on effects to us all now. And we're seeing milk prices taking a severe dip in the last 2 to 3 weeks. How are your clients responding to this? Mike, is the phone ringing? Are you looking at budget plans and whatnot now going into 2026?
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm in the Midlands tomorrow doing a budget for a client for 2026. We've started off doing budgets already. Yeah, like, look, I suppose, you know, us in the agri-industry, we probably have a bit of a reputation for, you know, calling out the bad news all the time. But the reality is, 2020, if Carlsberg did years for farming, 2025 would be the best year there's been in my career. I was 37 years in the ag industry, MJ, and this has just been a cracking year all round. You know, prices have been good, cattle prices, milk prices. We know the cereal prices weren't great, but they got good yields. You know, it's not that bad in the cereals, right? Pigs are good, poultry are good. You know, everybody, and the weather on top of it all then was just superb, like, you know. So the milk price, look, to get to your point, milk price is coming back, like it's back 6 or 7 cents there already in the last couple of months. But like, it's also coming off a high, and like and it's to put it in perspective, I think is important. I'm actually doing a budget here as we're speaking for before we get on the phone, and I'm just looking at figures I have here for a client of mine with 100 cows, and we say from 2010 to 2020, his average milk price was 34.5 cents. But it's very interesting to see where the milk price has gone since. From 34.5 in that 10-year period. It was 40 cents in 21. It was 60 cents a litre in 22. Back down to 42 in 23. Back up to 53 in 24. And he'd probably pitch in at 57 in 25. So we've huge volatility after coming in to milk production in the past 5 or 6 years. It's a bit like poultry, pigs and arable now, dairying. You know, the prices are up and down and you've just got to go with the flow.
Yeah, I suppose as well, when we talk to our accounting friends here on IFAC or wherever the case may be here in the programme, and they look at income averaging over the years, really, you can't take a year for itself now. You have to look at 3 at a minimum together in order to average what you're going to get. If you look at 1 year, yeah, it could be a great year like 22, then the following year. So if you take 3 together, it's a more even distribution of what's occurring.
To be honest, MJ, I'd say you need to take 5 now, you know, because it's just very variable. That's just a fact of life in the last 4 or 5 years. It's just incredibly variable. Like, I was actually saying it to one of my staff members during the week. You know, if you're new into being an agricultural advisor for dairying, you know, all the old benchmarks have gone out the window because, you know, the cost of production have gone up so much and the milk price has gone up so much, but the margin has pretty much been maintained or even bettered. Like 22 and 25 have been the 2 best years ever in dairying, ever. And that's important to keep in mind,
100%. Mike, just before we let you go, there was a big meeting in your neck of the woods, County Cork, last Monday night on nitrates. You may have attended or not, but in relation to it in general, we're coming up towards it now at the end of the year. This must be a big one that is on the tip of a lot of your clients' tongues when they're speaking to you now, nitrates and what's going to occur in next year.
Yeah, look, it's huge, MJ, and there was a fantastic turnout in Corran Martin for my the other night. I think there were talks of up to 2,000 people there, which is phenomenal. It's a great message to send out to the European Commissioner about renewal of the derogation. As you know, the current derogation finishes on the 31st of December. There's a meeting in December. There's a meeting in March. Last time around, every 4 years, we have this derogation meetings. Last year it actually went, or in 2022 it actually went to March, so we didn't know until March of 2023 that we were going to have it, So I'm confident we will get a derogation again. The news that's out there, or the negotiations apparently are revolving around, well, the new nitrates action plan was published there by the department last week, and the big thing that I think the farmers will have to do will be 20% more slurry storage and maybe 2 to 3 years to get it done. They're also talking about a limit on the grazing block, the stocking rate on the grazing block platform, and how that will be policed will be you'll have to export slurry within your own farm, like export from to the outside blocks. The farmers have done that already to other farmers, but they do it within their own blocks. So I'm pretty confident we have the science and we have the system in place. It's absolutely incredible now what a derogation farmer has to do. He has to apply for his derogation in March. He has to provide his nutrient management plan with all the soil samples and the amount of fertilizer he's going to do for the year. And then at the end of the year, he has to submit his records. And in the meantime, as you know now, there's the fertilizer database register. You can't buy fertilizer without your credit card nowadays, and your limit is on that, So I think we're getting to the space, MJ, where every farmer in the country, particularly everybody in derogation, will have to account for every bit of chemical fertiliser and slurry that they spread on each field on their farm. That's where we're going.
Yeah, seems to be, Mike. Many thanks for joining me, Mike, giving us a rundown there on those different areas, and we will speak to you again on the programme. Many thanks.
Pleasure, MJ. Thank you. Bye now.
Mike Brady there from the Brady Group, and we got around the houses on a lot of different aspects and areas there. Look, derogation being the big one, and a huge turnout, as Mike said, in Corran Mart in County Cork last Monday night. Well in excess of 2,000 people attended. There was standing room only. Minister for Agriculture was there along with the IFA. Francie Gorman was there, and it did show exactly just how important the derogation is to especially dairy farmers up and down the country for 2026. Now, coming up after the break, we're going to be talking to Marcus O'Halloran from AgriAware about quad users. Only 18% of them, the ones that were surveyed, wear a helmet while operating a quad. AgriAware are calling for an increase on this. And also Sean McNamara from the ICSA is going to give us some info about the ICSA heading to Dublin next week to have a demonstration for the Mercosur deal. So we're going to hear about that in just a moment.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
With W.R. Shaw, family owned and serving the Midlands since 1982, we're Ireland's largest independent agri-dealer, specialising in New Holland tractors and parts. With over 40 years' experience, we provide top quality sales, service and support. Visit W.R. Shaw in Tullamore and Carlow or online at wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, we're going to speak to Marcus O'Halloran from AgriAware in a moment. But first, Sean McNamara from the ICSA joins me. Sean, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
You're quite welcome, MJ.
Sean, you're on to speak about a protest you're planning in Dublin next week. Can you give us a bit more detail, please?
Yeah, it's going to be on the 13th of November. That's next Thursday. We want all farmers always to do with the Mercosur. We are trying to get the Mercosur stopped. The MEPs, two MEPs take a legal challenge, which was supposed to go ahead and begin December, but this legal challenge will stop in the new year anyway. So that's what I'm asking now is we need every farmer and every person from Rhode Island to come out for the future of the farms and say no to the Mercosur.
Where are you meeting, Sean, and what time are you meeting? Just the mechanics.
We're meeting out to the door at 10:30, 11 o'clock.
And in relation to this, Sean, look, obviously we're all very familiar with Mercosur and what it may do to beef farmers up and down the country and farming in general. And the likes of this demonstration, I suppose, Sean, look, what are you hoping to achieve? You want big numbers here to show the importance of this, I presume? Yes,
we want big numbers there to show the importance, and we also want big numbers there to stand behind our MEPs who's prepared to take a legal challenge, our two MEPs, Michael McNamara and Kieran Malooly, who's prepared to take a challenge in Portland. I want the way to have the farmers out to know that they have the farmers back, and like, it looks well in buses when they go take the challenge, when they're a good farmer back and already at home in Dublin.
Yeah, absolutely, Sean. No problem giving you a bit of publicity for that at all. Just when we have you, Sean, obviously sheep farming and a passionate sheep farmer, where are we at on sheep quotes at the moment from the factories?
Well, they're quoting 750, but there's 760, 770 around that going. It's no good. What I'm seeing now is there will be a lot of sheep next year. A lot of sheep farmers are getting out sheep at the moment, and they're getting older, they're getting out sheep. I don't like to be negative, but it's looking that way that we could be down another third on our numbers this year.
Really, Sean? That amount, yeah?
Yes, that amount, yeah. It's serious, like the amount of ewes has been sold and killed and everything now at the moment. Farmers, like, you know yourself, there's no young people to take up the job on that season. Well, we're not saying that bad, but they're just bad. With the price of cattle now, what cattle is making, like, it looks like sheep is the poor relation and the whole lot.
Yeah, well, it certainly does at the moment. Sean, in relation to this time last year, where are we at cheap prices? We are roughly the same or a little less, are we?
We're a little less. They were about 20 cents behind this time last year. And the big thing is, what we're looking at, the big thing is that we never seen, it did happen once, I think, in 1990, that sheep prices fell below beef price. Like we're 50 cents under the price of beef. Never has happened before, and then they're talking about the deer, lamb, and the supermarkets. But sure, lamb never was bought as cheap, and beef is dear, so I can't understand the whole thing.
Yeah, it is amazing when you do a correlation between the two of them. Who could have thought that in the last number of years? Sean, we'll say many thanks for you joining us here on the programme. It's Thursday, 13th November. It is outside the Dáil from 10:30 a.m. on, and you're looking for all farmers in the Midlands to support you.
Yeah, all farmers, all rural people to support us. Thanks very much, MJ.
Thanks a million, Sean McNamara there from the ICSA. Now we're moving on to safety and a safety issue. We have South Tip dairy farmer Marcus O'Halloran on the line from AgriAware. Marcus, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
Good evening, MJ. Good evening to all your listeners.
Marcus, we're going to talk about this in a moment. It's about quad users and wearing helmets, but I was just lining this up earlier. I was speaking to you. You're a busy man. You're with AgriAware, but you're farming as well down in South Tip Dairy Farming. Tell us, how is the weather down in your neck of the woods? Are you getting as much rain as we are up here?
We are. We're about, I'd say, by next Monday or Tuesday now. We're out by day at the moment, but by next Monday or Tuesday now, that'll even see the finish of that. So it will grass is going scarce, and to be honest with you, you just want to start building the bank for next February at this stage now anyway.
Yeah, it is one of those ones where I think everyone's fighting the losing battle at the moment. A lot of rain, awful lot of rain fell there in the last number of weeks, especially the last week or 10 days. Your own farm in your own area down there, Marcus, is it heavy soil, or would you keep cattle out longer than normal, or how would you describe your own farm?
It's kind of a funny one, and we actually get cows out in January, but we could be feeding silage half the summer. So we're on a slope really where we are here, and we're blessed that we're never too wet, but when we get sun, you know, we'd actually take rain every 2 weeks, and that's not something everybody would say openly or out loud, but so we suffer in a different way than other people do. It's on an average, it probably works out the same as having them until April every year.
Yeah, well, it's amazing, Marcus. I'm talking to people all over the country on the programme here on a given week, and I've learnt my lesson over the years. Could be good weather in one county and completely different weather in another county, and different land types. And as you say, what suits one may not suit the other. But look, moving on to the issue at hand here, we are speaking about quad users. They were recently surveyed, and only 18% are wearing a helmet. And you're calling for farmers to start wearing their helmets and be a bit more safety conscious. Is that it, Marcus?
Yeah, so as part of our Sowing Wellbeing in Every Field campaign that we conducted at the National Ploughing Championships, some farmers may have seen us in the Farmers Journal and on Agriland and different media outlets over the past number of months, where we've had supplements that are giving farmers advice around their mental and physical wellbeing. But at the Ploughing Championships then we conducted over 1,200 surveys, and these were questions focused around farm safety and wellbeing. But we decided to focus our results on quad safety, and as they had a startling result too around that. So helmet use was among quads users is really low. There's only 18% of people who own or use a quad always wear a helmet. So it's saying that the 72% that never really wear one. But I think what's important with the survey, and just to give clarity on it, when we completed the survey, the people we had actually doing that survey, they took some time to engage with farmers on that and walk them through maybe the bits of legislation that are there at the moment, the importance of doing that. Why we focused on this, MJ, in particular, was because the HSA released a report in May. And I think some of your listeners will recall this from different media outlets having it in May. But there was 3 people that lost their lives as a result of a quad accident in April, and that's 3 people too many, And when we see there's only 18% of people actually using quad helmets, it's something that we wanted to address.
Yeah, that's a really stark figure, Marcus, isn't it? And as you say, 3 is far too many. 3 people who lost their lives in a quad accident in April, and that brings it home, really, doesn't it? That people just need to be that little bit more conscious. So quads they're great, they're brilliant, they're like an extra operator on a farm, but they are dangerous pieces of equipment as well.
Look, a quad is the equivalent of a sheepdog in a lot of farms, so it is. They're almost an essential piece of equipment that we keep, that is used as much as anything is used. Your last contributor, Sean, he rightly mentioned that people are getting out, and we're looking at a country now that's at full employment, and when we have been at full employment, typically we've suffered in terms of getting people to work in agriculture, and particularly at primary level. Now, what we're looking at here is a generation of farmers that are doing more to stand still in some cases, and we don't have the help we have. So we are rushing around doing jobs. There's no doubt about it. And even part-time farmers, if you take them for example, they're doing jobs in the morning, they're working during the day, they're doing jobs in the evening. No different to a full-time farmer working all the time. And what we're aiming to to highlight here is just when a fatality hits the farm, there's a bigger mess left behind, so there is, and just to think about that when you are taking out a quad. But what was promising about the thing, MJ, and what I saw promising anyway, and it actually reflected our own situation at home here, and what that is that we change the quad once the warranty is up in the quad. So we change the quad every 2 years here, and over 50% of people that we surveyed have completed a safety course which has been the requirement since 2023. So that says that 50% of people have changed the quad in that time, or bought a quad in that time. And what I would be positive about is that I would believe that in the next 2 years, if we were to repeat this survey again, you'll see that number increase, because it's obviously the legislation now to do that. So I don't think, look, as I said, this isn't saying that farmers are criminals or anything like that. I'm a farmer myself. We're all involved in the sector. We just want everybody to be safe, and just to highlight the importance of maybe just thinking before we do these things. And it's as easy as anything to hop up in the quad and just drive off. It's the easiest thing you'll do. And for a lot of people, they find a sense of freedom about hopping up on a quad and going down the road. But at the end of the day, helmets are there for a reason, and if you have to stop suddenly when a car comes, or if there's a slippy piece of ground, that helmet could be the difference between you being a statistic or not.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I'm going to ask you, Marcus, just when I have you, is an interesting one as part of that survey as well, and you asked people what the legal age limit is for operating a quad. Some people got it right, some people got it wrong, some people might have confused it with a tractor. Can you just clear that up for us when we have you, please? Yeah,
it was an interesting one now, and I think it's, as you're saying, it is a confusion really. So the legal age limit for a quad that is 350 kilos or less, excuse me, with a maximum design speed of no more than 45 kilometres an hour is 16. So otherwise it's 17. So minors using quad bikes and private property fall under the fall under that remit of, they have to be wearing helmets, and they're not allowed to use the road. And there's a certain speed limit that is for them too. So ideally, you wouldn't see them. And what's to be noted also is just around carrying people in quads. That's a no-go.
Yeah, full stop. Just no passengers. Full stop.
There's no leeway in that one. Just no passengers.
Yeah, lots to think about there, Marcus. And look, hopefully, maybe somebody listening this evening now may go and pop a helmet on tomorrow. And if one person does, then the conversation will be well worth having. But hopefully more will. Marcus, we will leave you and we'll say many thanks for joining us here on the programme this evening.
Thanks very much, MJ.
Marcus O'Halloran there from AgriAware. And isn't that a very shocking stat? 3 people lost their lives in April on quad-related incidents. And as Marcus said, 3 too many. And quads, I've only ever been on a quad, I'd say once or twice ever. And I've always just said to myself, you would want a lot of proper training in relation to it. No more than operating a chainsaw or any of these implements that we can lay our hands on around a farmyard. Just because we can doesn't mean that we are capable of operating them. These are powerful machines, and definitively a safety course. If you haven't done one, go and do one there with the likes of FRS or one of these organisations, and and just ensure to be careful on them. That's really the crux of what we're speaking about there. Now, coming up after the break, Siobhan Kavanagh from Teagasc is going to be talking to us about an event in Tullamore next Tuesday, and it's called Farming for a Better Climate. And there are loads of aspects of this, but one of them, which I'm particularly interested in, is the whole area of carbon farming and being paid to sequester carbon on your farm. We're going to hear more about that in just a moment. Stay tuned.
The French know luxury. Discover the all-new 252 DS Automobiles range at Hugo Luna Motors. Experience pure driving pleasure with DS Automobiles, the French luxury car company. DS's premium range stands out through its charismatic style, interior refinement, sophisticated technology and first-class comfort. Book your test drive today and discover the magic of DS Automobiles at hugolunamotors.ie.
Country Life on Midlands 103.
Brought to you by W.R. Shaw, where New Holland isn't just a brand, it's our passion. For over 40 years, we've been Ireland's trusted name for New Holland tractors, parts and farm machinery. Whether you need new, used or ex-hire tractors, we've got you covered. wrshaw.ie.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, we're moving on to an event taking place in Tullamore next Tuesday on the 11th of November, Farming for a Better Climate. And Siobhan Kavanagh from Teagasc is joining me. Siobhan, many thanks for taking my call this evening.
No problem. Well, glad to be here.
You're more than welcome, Siobhan. As we said, it's coming up next Tuesday. Now, there's a lot, and we're going to go through the different aspects of it. But I suppose a little bit of background to it first, an overview, if you will, Siobhan, please.
Yeah, so this conference is about reducing our greenhouse gas emissions on farm, and it's bringing together all the stakeholders in the industry, farmers, demonstration farmers in the Signpost programme, industry partners, Teagasc advisors, research, bringing all the brains together basically to take a look at some of the existing technologies that we have to support farmers, but also the technologies that are coming down the road in the next couple of years that will help us to meet the targets that are set to 2030 to reduce our emissions by 25% and then carbon neutrality by 2050. So we've fairly stringent targets there. We're making progress, but it's to keep the momentum going behind that progress and to support farmers in doing that is really what this is about.
Yeah, and some of the areas you're looking at here, and I've a real interest in some of them. Well, they're all very good, but one of them which really catches my eye is developing a carbon farming framework. So, look, this idea of carbon sequestration and possibly being paid for this is something that we've covered here in the programme in the past, and it's something that, look, farmers have a real interest in this and they'd love more information on it.
Yeah, and I suppose what we're doing on next Tuesday is we're presenting the draft principles for a carbon farming framework. And it's a bit of a mouthful, but basically the Department of Agriculture with DEC have put together a framework for what it might look like. So they're going to present that on the day. That was published about 10 days ago or a fortnight ago. They're going to present that on the day. And then we're going to have a workshop with all the stakeholders in the industry to figure out, well, how will this actually work in practice? What are the main principles around it? What are the challenges? Where are the opportunities is going to be. And I think it's a great opportunity for farm organisations and industry people to have a say in it. Like, the funding for this is going to come primarily probably from private funding. So the people that are going to be involved in it need to be clear on what exactly that will look like. And it's a positive step forward that we have the draft now, is to take it to the next level. So what the department are doing is they're doing public consultations, and this is one of the public consultations at our conference next week.
And I suppose the question you'll be asked next week by the farmers, who are never too shy when it comes to the financial side of things, is how much can we get paid? When can we get paid? When's it going to happen? Now, these are the questions farmers want. Obviously, this is still a little bit in the future.
Yeah, I think we're probably a little bit away from that, MJ, getting down to that kind of details. I think they want to get the main principles about how we're going to verify it, what additionality, what other co-benefits there will be from this. You know, how can we build on existing systems and supports that are already there to do this? You know, there's a lot of background stuff to be done before we get to the point of actually being able to pay farmers for it. But if we don't get the principles right starting off, it's not going to succeed anyway. So it's to get those basic principles right first. And then move forward from that. But it's a very positive step that we have the draft at this stage.
Yeah, and we're not a million miles off it either. It is something to really be cognizant of going forward for farmers. Another really interesting area, Siobhan, and it's something that, look, tillage farmers are beating the drum for this now, especially this year, given the woes that are facing the tillage industry. But carbon footprinting of homegrown grains. This is really, really interesting.
Yeah, it is. Michael Hennessy is presenting that paper, and anybody that's visited us at the ploughing stand in September will have seen Michael had a display on this where he showed the carbon footprint for different grains, imported grains and Irish grains. And we have a really good story around Irish grains and the carbon footprint of it, because our carbon emissions associated with tillage are exceptionally low, and a small bit in terms of carbon sequestration could leave us neutral nearly in that area very, very quickly. So it's a really good news story, and it's very positive from the point of view if we can concentrate on having Irish grains, whether that be our own oats or other cereals. We have a good story to tell if we're feeding our animals with homegrown grain with a low carbon footprint. So I think that's a really good news story. And I suppose where this is coming from now, it's coming on the back of the launch of the AgNav programme for tillage in the last couple of months. And that's given us real hard data on the carbon footprint of Irish grains, which is really, really positive.
Yeah, I suppose it's a good news story in theory, if you will, Siobhan, but we need action on this, and we need the large millers now to take this on board, start using Irish homegrown grains and Irish rations, and government policy to weigh in on this as well, because if we don't, I suppose we won't have those homegrown grains in a few years because we won't have any tillage farmers.
Absolutely, and that's where the emphasis needs to be, and it's actually using these grains in our homegrown feeds. And it kind of feeds into one of the papers that's on earlier in the day from Mick Houlihan, where he's talking about what the international buyer is looking from Irish milk and meat products. And that feeds into that's part of that story. It's showing our low carbon footprint, showing that we're producing beef and meat basically from homegrown feeds and a grass-based diet. So I think that'll be a really interesting paper, because it's taking a really close look at what does the international buyer want from Irish. And we have a really good story to tell, and it's to build on that, like things like AgNav and having the data on what our emissions are from Irish farms and all of that information. It's given great data to our processors that are going to try and sell Irish product abroad.
Yeah, and this is the whole scale now, if you will. You know what I mean? We're going from farm to fork. We're using all our own products, and then we are doing it in a sustainable manner. And I think this is, as you say, what Mick's going to be speaking about. But it's where we need to be and where we need to market ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah. And we have the data to back it up, and that's a huge plus. Not every country has the kind of setup that we have for AgNav, where we have Board BIA doing the sustainability surveys, and everybody might complain about having to do them, but that data has given us a huge amount of information when it goes to try sell product abroad, that we have traceability, we have the emissions figures, we know what our carbon footprint, all that kind of stuff is hugely valuable to us, and we're very lucky to have the structures in Ireland to be able to deliver that.
I see another area, and again, something we've covered here on the programme, and something we're going to see more and more of as the years progress. That's methane reduction strategies. Another interesting one, Siobhan.
Yeah. So this is from Ben Lahart. He's leading up the research in Moorpark on this. So he's going to look at, what technologies do we have available to us right now in terms of reducing emissions? And it is quite limited. There's been lots of talk about the feed additive that work is progressing. I suppose where we're struggling a little bit is we're making progress on feed additives in an indoor system, but in a grass-based system, that's where we struggle with it, because you need to have continuous supply into the room and for these additives to really work. And obviously in a grass-based system for dairy cows in particular, you're only coming in twice a day, so you're not getting the benefit from the feed additives the same. So a lot of the work is really focused around that. But we dealt with that paper specifically last year, so what Ben is doing this year, he's going to focus more in on feed quality, which is something that we can control. The quality of our grazed grass, the quality of the silage, minimising silage in the diet, and then use of where do the alternatives fit in, the likes of the clover-based diets or clover-based swards, the multi-species, what impact do they have on methane emissions? So I think he's a really nice paper on that, looking at some of the latest research in that area across all the enterprises, not just dairy, across dairy, beef and sheep.
Yeah, it's a really interesting day you have set up there, Siobhan, with some really interesting papers. An awful lot of work goes into these as well, and there's 7 different speakers there on 7 different topics. So
that's right.
It's a huge amount of info and a huge amount of data for people there, and no doubt you're going to be busy next Tuesday, 11 November, Tullamore Court Hotel. Thanks for joining us here on the programme, giving us a rundown, Siobhan.
Not at all. Thank you, MJ. Thank you.
Siobhan Kavanagh there from Teagasc, and as we said, that is taking place next Tuesday. The one I'm very interested in there, covered regularly here in the programme. Went quiet, I suppose, this year a little bit. It was probably bigger towards the end of last year, that whole concept of carbon farming. I remember being down at the Teagasc Beef Conference in County Galway, Ballinasloe, and it was not last year, the year before, 2023, around now, 2023. And there was a speaker from France and how farmers were getting paid at that time for carbon sequestration. I said to myself, this is only a few months away in Ireland, and then went kind of quiet, but now we see it back again. But there is a lot of work in that in the background in order for it to occur. But it is going to come at some stage. We won't hold our breath for it, but it will come at some stage. And when it does, it's going to be an interesting potential income earner for farmers up and down the country. Now, coming up after the break, we are going to speak about bird flu. We're going to have the IFA Poultry Chair from County Cork, Nigel Sweetenham. He's going to talk about what the department are doing in relation to it. Unfortunately, we have to be speaking about this because this is a really serious thing for poultry farmers up and down the country. But look, a lot of them are up in the northern part of both Ireland and Northern Ireland, and we're going to speak to Nigel in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Country Life on Midlands 103
with W.R. Shaw. Looking for the best in farm machinery? We've been supplying top quality New Holland tractors and parts and providing service since 1982. Our expert team is here to keep your farm running smoothly with branches in Tullamore and Carlow. Visit wrshaw.ie today.
And you're very welcome back to Country Life here on Midlands 103. Now, the last part of this evening's programme, and we're moving over to speak about poultry. Unfortunately, it is the area of avian flu, bird flu as it's known, and Nigel Sweetenham is the IFA Poultry Chair. Nigel, many thanks for joining me this evening on the programme.
Thank you, it's great to talk.
Nigel, as I said, unfortunately, I'd like to be talking about something more positive in the poultry sector, but we're going to talk about what's happening with bird flu in a moment. But just look, we're up here in the Midlands, not as much in relation to poultry farms as other parts of the country. Can you just give us a little outline, Nigel, bird flu? What exactly is it, first and foremost?
I suppose to start with the basics, bird flu is a disease of wild birds. And through the last 4 or 5 years, it has become more and more a problem. The other thing we're seeing is that each year the disease comes back in a new form. It mutates and travels through a different carrier species. This year it's very prevalent in game birds, namely pheasants and mallard ducks and geese are very prone to it this year. And the other thing that's happened is that the mortality isn't as sudden onset as it was. Birds are tending to get sick for 2 or 3 days and die then, whereas before in the earlier version of bird flu, within two days you could wipe out a whole house of commercial birds.
And in relation to treatment, is there anything, Nigel?
No, it's fatal.
Yeah, so what
I suppose those that don't actually succumb to the disease are better euthanized, and we see that in Fota where they're struggling to control it. And there's up to, I think, 79 birds have died of the virus in the zoo. And as farmers, we feel compassion for them because we have 3 prongs here in the bird flu. The first thing is the welfare of the birds, and that would be our primary concern. The second thing we'd be concerned is farmers' welfare. This is farmers' businesses that we're talking about. And the third thing is consumer and the supply, to be able to continue to supply the meat on the shelves. And I suppose, sorry, yeah.
No, 100%, Nigel. And you've laid it out in such a clear format there. It's very easy to understand. I suppose then the next question is, if it's here, how do you combat it, or what can poultry farmers do?
Yeah, the next stage in that then is it's the transfer from wild birds to either commercial farm birds or to domestic fowl in people's backyards. There's 5 or 6 hens that they have in their garden. 90% of infection occurs by direct contact with birds. So if you can eliminate that direct contact, and that's why last week we called for the housing order. We first called for a regional one when it was only in Cork and Northern Ireland, but now it's spread to Carlow. I think that we put out a call yesterday for a national lockdown, and thankfully the Minister has seen since this evening and introduced it. But the whole thing we're trying to do here is keep our birds safe, and that's why we call for the lockdown, because if you can avoid contact, you can avoid the birds getting sick. And there are those in Ireland that would like that, and ourselves included, would prefer to see birds out. But we have to be realistic, and this is the safer option. It's better to have a good and healthy bird indoors than a sick bird or dead bird outdoors. It comes at a cost.
100%, Nigel. Safety is paramount, and animal welfare, as you say, is paramount. Does weather play an issue with this virus?
Yeah, the particular weather we have at the moment means that the less daylight and warm weather warm, sunny, dry weather will kill the virus. But in this warm, wet weather is actually incubation for the virus, and the big danger here is that the virus in the feces. And it can live for up to 13 days under these conditions. So there was an outbreak of avian flu in the Loch. It's a city area there, an amenity area in Cork City. And we were very worried that if ducks came out of the pond and did do what ducks do on the footpath, that students walking would contaminate their shoes and inadvertently walk the disease home. So that's part of the transmission that we were slow to call for, but it thought that it was necessary that photos needed to be closed because the danger of humans becoming vectors for this disease are way too risky.
Yeah, absolutely, Nigel. It's such a challenging one to deal with and to really know what to say to you as a poultry farmer, because there's so many aspects to it. You just hope that it's going to pass.
Yeah, well, that's the traditional season. It arrives with migratory birds in the autumn, and that's part of the problem this year, is that those birds arrive a month earlier than normal. The other thing we're seeing is that the migratory patterns have totally changed. Areas that never saw bird flu before are finding outbreaks. Hungary, Romania, southern Germany, northern Italy have a huge red line. If you look at the infection rates across Europe, I'm part of a working group in Europe with the Commission there, a working group on poultry. And these are part of the findings we're seeing. And the traditional areas where it would be in the North Sea, the coast of the Netherlands, and down as far as the northern France, not seeing as heavy an infection. And more important to us is the change in the UK, where we're seeing cases on the west coast of England and Wales, and that is very, very worrying because it's a short hop across the sea for wild birds, and probably that's why we're seeing it in Ireland as well. And the amount of phone calls I've got over the last couple of days there about sick and dead birds around the place is frightening.
Nigel, unfortunately I'm out of time. All I can say is our thoughts are with you from the farmers in the Midland, indeed any affected farmers in the Midland either. Yeah. And we just look. Hopefully this will pass. Thanks for joining me.
Hopefully, and that everything will come out the other end. But our history has been good, and the lockdown has served us well. So hopefully, now with this in place, that's the next tool in the toolbox.
Fingers crossed. Many thanks, Nigel.
Thank you.
Nigel Sweetenham, their poultry chair from the IFA, and. Yeah, anyone who's affected with that, or any poultry farmers in the Midlands, or indeed the rest of the country, our hearts go out to you as fellow farmers, because it's your livestock at the end of the day, and it's your livelihood, and it's just so out of your control. I suppose the housing is the only element of it. So look, we hope that it works and that this shall pass. That is it for this evening's programme. I'd like to thank Nigel Sweetenham there from the IFA in relation to that. Also Siobhan Kavanagh from Teagasc, with Sean McNamara from the ICSA speaking about their event next week, tomorrow week in Dublin outside the Dáil. Marcus O'Halloran from AgriAware is imploring you to wear your helmet when you are operating your quad bike. And Mike Brady from the Brady Group was speaking to us back what seems like an age ago now about how ambition can be confused with greed on farms up and down the country. That is it for this evening's programme. I'd like to thank you all for joining me here over the course of the last hour. I'll be back with you on Sunday morning, 7am through to 8am on our repeat programme. You can also get us wherever you get your podcast. Type in MJ space Clery, Clery. We will pop up. You can listen at your leisure. I'll be back with you next Wednesday evening, as always, here at 7pm, and we'll say good night. Joe Cooney is up next with Country Roads. I'll see you in a week's time.